The day the Vance family empire crumbled, everyone assumed I'd call off my engagement to Sierra. But in the middle of a torrential downpour, I held an umbrella over her, shielding her as she slid, drenched and defeated, into my car. "Here's $100 million, I told her. "Succeed, and you come back and marry me. "Fail, I'll come find you and marry you anyway." 5 years later, she stormed back into New York, the CEO of 3 publicly traded companies. At a packed press conference, broadcast on every major news network, she announced, "Lucas Shaw and I ended our engagement 5 years ago." In those 5 years, she'd had someone else. Someone who was there for her. A shoulder to cry on when she was exhausted, a comfort when she was heartbroken, a cheerleader when she succeeded. They had weathered the storm together, fought side by side, and fallen in love. And the man who'd thrown her a $100 million lifeline to rebuild her world, he was now the butt of the joke. "This is $300 million, Sierra said, sliding a cashier's check across the table. "Consider the debt repaid." Success had chiseled away her youthful softness, replacing it with a sharp, mature confidence. She was a powerhouse, radiating an almost intimidating sensuality. It was that look that had captivated me all those years ago, making me defy my own father's warnings to help her. Even now, just looking at her, a primal sense of possession flared within me. I picked up the check and handed it to my assistant standing behind me. My face was a mask of indifference as I looked back at Sierra, my voice flat. "Have accounting verify this." To the last cent. Sierra watched my assistant take the check, a wave of relief washing over her face as she let out a long breath. I caught the subtle shift in her expression and smiled faintly. "You think that settles things? That you don't owe me anything else?" Her posture straightened instantly. "Mr. Shaw," she said, her voice formal and earnest, "if you ever need anything at all, you have only to ask. I will do whatever I can to help you." She paused, then added pointedly, "Anything but marriage." She delivered the line with such solemn sincerity, as if she were a knight swearing an oath. I wasn't buying it. "That watch you bought at the Sotheby's auction yesterday," I said, my tone casual. "I like it. Have it sent to my office tomorrow morning." The watch she'd spent a fortune on was a one-of-a-kind Patek Philippe, a unique piece rumored to be a gift for her fiancé, Leo Perry. I wondered what kind of reaction it would provoke if it suddenly appeared on my wrist. Seeing her hesitate, I stood up and started for the stairs. "If your word means nothing, Ms. Vance," I called over my shoulder, "then just forget I said anything." The next day, my assistant placed the watch on my desk. I held it up, admiring the intricate craftsmanship. It was a masterpiece, its value obvious at a glance. It would pair perfectly with the bespoke Tom Ford suit I planned to wear to the charity gala that evening. At the gala, Sierra arrived with her fiancé, Leo, on her arm. I, on the other hand, was alone. The whispers started almost immediately. A rising tide of gossip centered on why the watch Sierra had bought for her fiancé was now clasped around my wrist. Her fiancé, Leo, approached me, a practiced smile on his face. "Lucas," he began. Sierra explained everything. "The watch was a gesture of gratitude for your past kindness." I took a sip of my champagne and turned away, dismissing him. He wasn't worth my time, but he persisted, his tone dripping with condescension. "You might have money, Lucas, but you don't know the first thing about love. Otherwise, Sierra wouldn't have chosen me." I glanced at the half-empty glass in my hand, suddenly feeling it wasn't nearly strong enough. I set it down, picked up a slice of tiramisu from a passing tray, and smashed it squarely into his smug face. A collective gasp echoed through the ballroom as all eyes turned to us. Sierra rushed over, pulling a silk handkerchief from her clutch to wipe the cream from Leo's face. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she snapped at me. "Why are you harassing my fiancé?" I dropped the plate onto a table, wiped my fingers with a napkin, and shrugged. He was ruining my appetite. Leo, ever the performer, adopted a look of pained forbearance, a masterclass in male martyrdom. "I was just telling Mr. Shaw that I don't mind him taking my watch. If it helps him feel better, he can have anything he wants." His words were the cue for my arch-nemesis, Ryder Stone, to chime in. Arms crossed, he declared loudly, "Same old Luke Shaw, bullying everyone. Thinks his family's money gives him the right to take whatever he wants." A chorus of agreement rose from the crowd, all of them condemning me as an arrogant, entitled trust fund brat. Through it all, I kept a polite smile plastered on my face, my eyes locked on Sierra's. Her gaze was a murky, unreadable storm. After a long, tense moment, she finally spoke. "Let's go." She took Leo's hand and led him away. Watching them walk off together felt like a knife twisting in my gut. We were engaged at 18. Back then, Sierra was so innocent, so sweet. A single joke from me could bring a soft pink blush to her fair cheeks. I loved teasing her, that specific way a man enjoys the effect he has on a woman he desires. The day her family went bankrupt, it was as if she'd aged a decade overnight. Her gaze became steely, her entire being radiating a defiant, unbreakable will. I knew she would succeed. I just forgot that once she did, she might not remember our engagement. Do I regret it? I never regret anything. I could build her up, and I could just as easily tear her back down into the mud. From that night on, wherever Sierra went, I was there. If she made a bid for a piece of real estate, I'd outbid her by double. If she competed for a corporate contract, I'd undercut her by half. When it came to a war of wealth, she was hopelessly outmatched. I was Lucas Shaw. I had been ruling the game in New York City, while she was still struggling to get by in some backwater town with $100 million I'd given her. Finally, she broke. She came to my penthouse alone to surrender. She stood before me, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, but her gaze was stubbornly fixed on mine. "This isn't doing you any favors, either, Luke," she said, her voice tight. "The Shaw fortune is vast, but not even your family can afford to burn money like this forever." So, she was lecturing me now. I glanced past her toward the door, then let my eyes drift back to her. "Where's your fiancé?" I asked calmly. "Isn't he going to apologize?" Her full, red lips pressed into a thin line. She looked down, her head bowed slightly in a gesture of sincerity. "I apologize on his behalf for what happened that night." Then her tone shifted. "But you threw the first punch, or, well, the first cake. No matter how you look at it, you both share the blame." "Fine. So much for an apology." A smirk played on my lips as I leaned my head on my hand. "You're right," I said with mock regret. "I was far too gentle. You should tell him to stay out of my way. Next time, it won't be just a piece of cake." Realizing she was getting nowhere, Sierra's demeanor hardened. "If you refuse to leave my fiancé alone, then there's nothing more to talk about," she said, her face grim. "I'll see you on the battlefield." I leaned back into the sofa, crossing one leg over the other, the very picture of arrogance. "Sounds good to me. I'll be waiting." After leaving my place, Sierra started reaching out to industry titans, try to forge new alliances. But in New York, all it took was one word from me, and no one would dare work with her. Besides, the collapse of her family's company had burned a lot of bridges. I wasn't the only one who didn't want to see her rise again. What I hadn't counted on was Leo Perry being a damn influencer with millions of followers. He posted a video online, accusing me of monopolistic practices and deliberately targeting Sierra. He recounted their struggles in building her companies, his eyes welling with tears, masterfully crafting a narrative that had his followers eating out of the palm of his hand. When my assistant showed me the video, I just laughed. I pulled out my phone and dialed Sierra. "You have 2 minutes to take down that video your fiancé posted," I said. "He's only telling the truth," she countered. "The truth." My voice turned to ice. "Are you sure you want to lose the last shred of dignity you have left?" There was a moment of silence on her end. The $100 million seed money was a secret known only to a select few in our circle. If that got out, the public humiliation would be hers, not mine. She was a businesswoman, after all. She knew how to weigh her options. And in that calculation, her fiancé meant nothing. "I'll have him delete it," she said finally. "Madison Sterling and I grew up together. The night Sierra and I got engaged, rumor has it Madison cried herself to sleep. The day Sierra's family went bankrupt, she spent a fortune on a fireworks display that lit up the Manhattan skyline all night long. It's not for you, she'd insisted. I just can't stand Sierra Vance. That's why we got along. We were two of a kind, even if we couldn't stand each other half the time. Tonight, she'd invited me to a private club in the meatpacking district to blow off some steam. She'd thoughtfully arranged for company, a half-dozen models of every conceivable type. After a few glasses of bourbon, my true nature surfaced. I had a sultry brunette on my left and a wide-eyed ingenue on my right. Life was good. The door to our private suite swung open, and through a drunken haze, I thought I saw Sierra's angry face. It was her. Who invited the buzzkill? I grumbled. Madison, leaning in close, smoothed the collar of my shirt with a triumphant glint in her eyes. I did, she whispered. We were short a bartender. I glanced at her, confused. Madison didn't wait for me to catch on. She called out to Sierra, who was frozen by the door. Well, don't just stand there. Come pour us some drinks. Then she leaned back toward me, her voice a smug whisper. She's trying to get my father to invest in her latest venture. She won't dare say no to me. So that was her game. Humiliate Sierra. For my sake, I charitably assumed. Before I could process it, Sierra had picked up a bottle of whiskey and was kneeling in front of me, filling my glass. She could bend without breaking. That was the thought that came to mind. The shifting, colored lights played across her face, highlighting her cool, almost shattered beauty. Her eyes were empty, betraying no emotion, as if she were above it all. Even in this position, she was still so damn proud. I deliberately knocked my glass over, the dark liquid splashing across her pristine white silk blouse. Her brow furrowed for a fraction of a second, a flicker of her true feelings. "Oops," I said. "Pour me un azur." The rise and fall of her chest, the way she bit her lip, every tiny detail was a testament to her self-control. I took the refilled glass and downed a mouthful of the harsh, fiery liquor. Then I grabbed the front of her blouse, yanking her toward me. Our faces were inches apart. I could feel her warm breath on my skin. My face lunged forward. She instinctively turned her head away. That simple act of defiance ignited a rage in me. I seized her chin, forced her to face me, and crushed my lips against hers. Sierra struggled, pushing me away. She scrambled to her feet, took the half-empty bottle, and smashed it on the floor. Shards of glass flew, one slicing a deep gash into her exposed calf. "I paid you back," she seethed, humiliating me like this is going too far. Too far. I glanced at Madison. Madison shook her head immediately. "Of course not. If it weren't for you, who knows what street corner she'd be begging on right now." I turned my gaze back to Sierra. "You hurt her. You owe me more than money. You owe me." Sierra said nothing. She turned to leave, dragging her bleeding leg behind her. Madison's bodyguards blocked the door, clearly under orders not to let her go so easily. Just then, a commotion erupted outside. The door flew open and Leo Perry burst in, right on cue. He planted himself in front of Sierra like a knight protecting his princess. "If you touch one hair on her head," he snarled, "I swear I'll make you pay." Looking at this self-important, clueless man, I burst out laughing. I walked up to him, extending a hand to pat his cheek lightly. Once, twice. On the third, Sierra's hand shot out and clamped around my wrist. "Luke, don't you dare," she warned, her voice low and full of menace. Her eyes blazed with a murderous light. I looked over at Madison with an expression of pure innocence. "Am I going too far?" Madison shook her head. "Not at all. She's the one who stole your fiancé. So, I was the victim here. One woman was my fiancé, with whom I'd never officially broken our engagement. The other was the man my fiancé was calling her fiancé. It was a tangled, ugly mess. Don't forget, Sierra," I said, my voice dropping, "our engagement was never legally dissolved. For you to publicly claim this man is your fiancé. Wouldn't you say that's going too far?" The fire in Sierra's eyes dimmed. "Our engagement ended 5 years ago," she said, her voice hollow. She lifted her head, her gaze locking with mine. "You don't know, do you? When my family's company was destroyed, your father was involved. I didn't believe it. Then why didn't he stop me from helping you?" A bitter, quiet laugh escaped her lips. "It was all just a game to him. A cat-and-mouse game. Your family is all the same. Aren't you trying to drag me back into the mud right now?" I was speechless because she was right. In the end, fists flew. I sat back on the sofa and watched with cold detachment as Madison's bodyguards took Leo apart. I saw him go down, saw the blood trickle from the corner of his mouth, saw the gash open on his forehead. Sierra was shielded beneath him, her voice raw as she screamed for them to stop. Leo was carried out of the club. Madison, in a fit of mock charity, had them sent to the hospital. As they were leaving, Sierra looked back at me, her eyes filled with defiance. Our gazes met, and for a wild second my heart stuttered. The brokenness in her eyes, the disheveled hair, it all pulled at something deep inside me. I wanted to be the one protecting her. All these years, she'd hidden her vulnerability, showing the world only a mask of strength and resilience. I wanted to find the girl I had once been so captivated by. I refused to believe she was truly gone. It was the ghost of that long-ago infatuation that fueled my relentless unwillingness to let her go. My unwillingness, however, curdled into pure rage a few days later. In a televised interview, Sierra stated unequivocally, "My engagement to Lucas Shaw was terminated 5 years ago." Reporters camped outside my townhouse, desperate for my side of the story. My side was simple. I gave it to the first journalist who shoved a microphone in my face. Sierra Vance took my $100 million to get back on her feet, and then she ghosted me. A classic case of use and abuse. Within half an hour, headlines exploded across the internet. Jilted billionaire. Shaw claims Vance is a gold-digging traitor. Leo Perry was branded the other man. In response, Leo posted a video of Sierra's bandaged leg, claiming I had a violent streak, that I was emotionally unstable, that I was mentally ill. He even somehow produced a diagnostic letter confirming I had seen a therapist. The war between Sierra and me was just beginning. I put on a bespoke suit and, with a smile, attended my company's new product launch. When reporters asked about my personal life, I deflected every question. Please, let's focus on the new product line. Ms. Vance? I don't know her well. Mr. Perry? The name doesn't ring a bell. The media went from salivating over the gossip to being utterly confused. Was I suffering from dissociative identity disorder? Just days ago, we were at each other's throats, and now I didn't even know them? The more I acted this way, the more attention they paid. A new product needs buzz to sell. Now, not only had I saved on a massive marketing budget, but I had also turned myself into a brand. Meanwhile, in a VIP suite at a private hospital, Sierra was resting in bed, her leg bandaged, watching the news on a flat-screen TV. I sat beside her, silently peeling an apple. I managed to get the peel off in one long, continuous spiral. A small, satisfying victory. I held the apple out to her. Eat. Sierra gave me a soft smile, her eyes filled with a surprising tenderness. You have it. I pulled my hand back and took a huge, crunchy bite. Then I offered it to her again. It's crisp and sweet. Go on. She took it with a resigned laugh. Just then, we heard Leo's voice shouting from the hallway. Let me in. I need to see how Sierra's doing. A bodyguard's low voice replied, Mr. Shaw's orders. No one is allowed inside. I'm her fiancé. Leo protested. Who the hell is Lucas Shaw to keep me from seeing my fiancé? Hearing the commotion, Sierra set the apple down. I glanced toward the door. He's really getting into character, your guy. Sierra's expression was neutral. I'll handle it. The messier our public feud, the more our real enemies would believe she was truly isolated and vulnerable in New York. The fall of the Vance family had been a complex affair, with many players involved, including members of my own family. For Sierra to walk willingly back into this den of wolves was an all-or-nothing gamble. To expose the people who had framed her family, she had to become the bait, waiting for the hunters to reveal themselves. I was a Shaw. I was her ex-fiancé, and I was the one who had bankrolled her return. By playing the part of her greatest enemy, I was, in fact, her greatest protector. The day Sierra was discharged, the hospital entrance was a media circus. Ms. Vance, were the injuries to your leg inflicted by Mr. Shaw? A reporter shouted. Leo, standing beside her, seethed with righteous indignation. Of course they were. He hired thugs to do it. The man is a complete monster. Sierra wore a look of quiet suffering, her silence a tacit confirmation of Leo's story. Parked across the street in a black Porsche Cayenne, I watched the scene unfold. My phone buzzed. A glance at the screen showed it was a call from the family estate. My father was summoning me to an internal meeting of the city's ruling families. It was scheduled for tonight. I was never invited to these high-level affairs. The only reason I was being included now was because my feud with Sierra had gotten too big to ignore. The topic of the evening: how to deal with Sierra Vance and run her out of New York for good. The heads of the three great families, Shaw, Sterling, and Stone, were all present. Among the younger generation, it was just me and Madison Sterling. The Vance affair, it seemed, was more complicated than I'd ever imagined. I spent the entire meeting fiddling with my phone, saying nothing. When it was over, my father turned to me. Lucas, your thoughts? He had just proposed that I use our old engagement to pressure Sierra, ideally to marry her and bind her interests to ours through legal ties. He never trusted the alliances with the Sterlings or the Stones. And he certainly didn't believe Sierra would forgive the Shaw family out of some misplaced sentimentality. He only trusted what he could control. I wasn't yet powerful enough to defy him, so I nodded in acquiescence. Later, I sent Sierra a text, telling her that if she was pushed into a corner, she should agree to the proposal for now. My father invited Sierra to the Shaw estate for a reunion. It was a trap, but she had to walk into it. You can't catch a tiger without entering its lair. I sat on the sidelines, a spectator to my own life, as my father threatened Sierra with marriage. I, the groom-to-be, had no say in the matter. Sierra was resolute. I will never marry Lucas Shaw. Even knowing it was all an act, her words struck me with the force of a physical blow. There was a conviction in her voice that felt all too real. The woman before me was cool and proud, her spine made of steel. Even standing before my father, she refused to bow. Maybe she was right. Maybe we really would never get married. With a single look from my father, 8 bodyguards materialized surrounding her. All of them were seasoned professionals. He was done with persuasion. Now came the force. I felt a surge of panic, my fists clenching at my sides. The guards restrained Sierra. My father's eyes were like chips of ice, his entire presence radiating an aura of absolute authority. "Lock her up," he commanded. "Let me know when she changes her mind." The guards dragged her up the stairs to a hidden room. I watched them go, the heavy slam of the iron door echoing through the house, jarring loose a memory from my childhood. My mother had been beaten to death behind that same door. I, too, had been locked in there for days on end. My mother's crime was speaking a few friendly words to our driver. Mine was disobeying one of my father's orders. His need for control was pathological. For years, I had been trying to escape his grasp. As Sierra had guessed, my father hadn't truly tried to stop me from giving her the 100 million. He had allowed it for his own sick amusement. He loved playing with people's lives, watching them struggle in the mud. The more they fought, the more he enjoyed it. Late that night, I used a key I had secretly copied years ago and let Sierra out. The sight of her huddled in the corner of that dark, cold room made my chest ache with a pain that was hard to breathe through. "Don't be sad," she said softly, her hands gently cupping my face. She was comforting me. "I'm sorry," I choked out, my voice thick. "After all these years, I still can't beat him. I just stood by and let him hurt you. I'm so sorry." She wrapped her arms around me, patting my back. "You've already done more than enough for me." I shook my head. It wasn't enough. Under the cover of darkness, I led Sierra out through a back exit. But at the last moment, my father's men spotted us. From a second-story window, my father, enraged, pulled the trigger. After the crack of the gunshot, I collapsed, falling behind Sierra. "Go!" I yelled, pushing her forward. "Get out of here!" She glanced back, her steps faltering as she started to turn around. "He's my father," I forced out. "He won't kill me." She believed me. She climbed into a car that was waiting at the gate. But that car, it wasn't one I had arranged. In the brief flash of its interior light, I saw the driver. It was Leo Perry. I lowered my head, a bitter smile twisting my lips. I had been a fool. Even if I hadn't saved her, someone else would have. She had her own plans, her own contingencies, and she hadn't told me a single thing about them. Leo wasn't just an actor she'd hired. He was her partner. He had been all along. My father's hand clamped around my neck, his grip so tight I thought he would crush my windpipe. Our eyes met, and the inferno of rage in his made me tremble. "Lock him up," he roared. I was thrown back into the secret room. He stood over me, holding the same whip I remembered from my childhood. He advanced on me, step by step. I watched him, resigned to my fate. He swung the whip, and each lash that landed on my body felt like it was tearing my skin from my bones. Eventually, he grew tired. Blood dripped from the whip onto the cold stone floor. I lay there, barely conscious, blood pouring from the bullet wound in my leg. The pain suddenly vanished. Time seemed to rewind to a spring day years ago. A gentle breeze, a warm sun, and a beautiful, innocent girl standing under the shade of a tree. A loud-mouthed kid with bleached blonde hair held out a heart-covered love letter. "Sierra, I like you. Be my girlfriend." The girl, Sierra, snatched the letter and tossed it into a nearby trash can. I, a spectator, stood nearby, smoothing my own hair and laughing freely. The blonde kid, feeling insulted, stormed over and threw a punch at me. I dodged easily, and he stumbled, falling flat on his face. My laughter grew louder. That kid, Ryder Stone, would later become my sworn enemy. More than half of the nasty rumors about me circulating in the city were his handiwork. For me, seeing Sierra was love at first sight. For her, I was probably just some lunatic. Sierra was a woman of few words. As the sole heir to the Vance fortune, she had been rigorously trained from childhood. Her life's purpose was to learn how to be a worthy leader. I was the opposite. Raised under my father's brutal tyranny, I was a walking rebellion. She had ability and ambition. I had always known I wouldn't be the final chapter of her story. I might be a villain, or maybe just a disposable side character. But I couldn't accept that. I felt like I could be the hero, too. My father, however, wasn't done with me. He had me sent to the hospital and arranged for the best possible medical care. Half a month later, I saw the news on my hospital room TV. I was getting engaged to Madison Sterling. The ceremony was in 3 days. I had a sinking feeling he was trying to force Sierra out into the open. In the last few days, both the Stone and Sterling families had suffered massive, crippling financial blows. Sierra's methods were so ruthless that even a man like my father was getting desperate. The door to my room opened, and my father walked in, flanked by his bodyguards. He stood at the foot of my bed, looking down at me. "When did you and Sierra start working together?" "We're not working together," I said, looking down and denying it. "If you want to live," he said coldly, "you will do exactly as I say. At the engagement party in 3 days, you will do whatever it takes to get Sierra to show up. Otherwise, He trailed off, but I could already hear the sound of the whip slicing through the air. Understood, I said, my teeth chattering. My phone was returned to me. I traced the numbers of her contact info over and over. Finally, my fingers flew across the screen, sending a single message. Staring up at the blank white ceiling, a strange sense of clarity washed over me. I felt a sudden release. Born into a family like this, with a father like him. If I could save even one person, what right did I have to ask for anything in return? Maybe I was born to pay for the sins of the Shaw family. 3 days passed in a blur. The scars on my body had faded, and my strength had returned. At the lavish engagement party, packed with the city's elite, every face was a mask of formal gravity. The entire estate was surrounded, a net waiting to be sprung. My father was watching my every move. I knew it, but I didn't care. I played the part of the dutiful son, the happy groom-to-be, smiling politely as I moved through the crowd, glass in hand. As the night wore on, my father's calm composure began to fray, his brow furrowing with anxiety. The person he was waiting for never appeared. He looked at me, and my serene expression, and a flicker of understanding crossed his face. He pulled me into a private room. "Where is she?" he demanded. "Why isn't she here?" I met his gaze and let out a soft laugh. "I suppose she's not coming." That day, my message to Sierra had been a threat. "If you dare to show up, I will jump from the roof of this building." My father glanced at a nearby bodyguard, who immediately understood, unbuckling his belt and handing it to him. My laughter grew wilder as I taunted him. "You should do it. Kill me, just like you killed my mother." His body went rigid. "Your mother deserved to die," he hissed through clenched teeth. He raised the belt high. In the split second before it fell, the piercing wail of police sirens shattered the night. The door burst open. Sierra stormed in, followed by a tactical team with their guns drawn. My father and his bodyguards were swarmed and restrained. I stared at the scene, stunned. Sierra, she hadn't told me. Was it a lack of trust? Or had she never trusted me at all? "Luke, are you okay?" The woman before me spoke with urgent concern, her eyes wide with worry as she gently wrapped her arms around me. I buried my face in the curve of her neck, unwilling to speak, unwilling to respond. I felt as if the entire world had abandoned me. The repeated betrayals of her trust had eroded my own. Was I just a pawn in your game? My voice was muffled against her skin. Sierra stiffened, then pressed her forehead against mine. "When you've had some rest, I'll explain everything." I closed my eyes. The scent I breathed in was a woody, masculine fragrance, not the light floral scent she used to wear. Maybe no explanation was necessary. The crimes of the Shaw, Sterling, and Stone families were exposed, the evidence irrefutable. Just like the Vance empire before them, they vanished overnight. Sierra's revenge was swift and absolute. I hid away in my townhouse for days. Sierra waited outside my door for just as long. I had let the staff go, and the food in the refrigerator was nearly gone. I took a shower, changed into my best clothes. One should always look presentable when meeting an ex, and went downstairs. Her slender silhouette was framed by the floor-to-ceiling windows. I sat down across from her, my usual arrogance gone. "Congratulations," I said, the words feeling hollow. "You got everything you wanted." I paused. "I heard you're getting engaged." "Pity, I have nothing to my name now." I pushed the watch I'd taken from her across the table. "Consider this my wedding gift. I don't think I'll be able to make the ceremony." Sierra shot to her feet, her eyes red-rimmed. "Look, please, let me explain. I owe Leo so much. For all those years, he was the one by my side." A bitter smile touched my lips. While you two were suffering, I was living the high life as the great Lucas Shaw, heir to a fortune. What she didn't know was that during that time, guilt had eaten me alive. I couldn't sleep. The knowledge that my own father had destroyed her family made me feel like an accomplice. The torment drove me to the edge of a breakdown. The diagnostic letter Leo had leaked online, the one from the therapist, it was real. The day my mother died, I had gone to find Sierra. I found her celebrating the IPO of her first company, with Leo standing proudly by her side. They looked like a perfect couple. When I got home that night, I smashed everything in the house to pieces. But even then, in my darkest moment, I never once considered doing anything that would make her life harder. Sierra's brow was furrowed. Each word she spoke weighed with sincerity. "I will make it up to you. You can have anything you want. Anything but marriage." I cut in coldly, finishing her sentence for her. I stood and went to the liquor cabinet, pulling out the most expensive bottle of scotch. I poured 2 glasses. "It's been 10 years, hasn't it?" I said. "What's in it tonight? After this, we owe each other nothing." Sierra took the glass and drained it in one go. Then she snatched the bottle from my hand and poured 2 more shots for herself, downing them in quick succession. I let out a short, sharp laugh. That's a 50-year-old McAllen. You're wasting it. A flicker of light passed through her eyes, but her expression remained placid. We drank, glass after glass. She finally spoke. Luke, in this life, I owe you. I promise in the next one, I'll pay you back. I was speechless for a moment. And what makes you so sure I'd fall for you in the next life? She managed a weak, awkward smile. You're right. That's too much to ask. I lifted my chin. A good man like me is hard to find. You missed your chance. One bottle emptied, then a second, then a third. We moved from the window to the sofa, and from the sofa to the bedroom. The aftermath of a night like that is always the same. A pounding headache and a memory full of holes. Clothes were strewn across the floor. The sheets were a tangled mess. Empty bottles lay on their sides. Was it a moment of uncontrollable passion, or just a drunken mistake? I looked at Sierra, still asleep, and I couldn't find the answer. I threw on a random set of clothes and slipped out of the house. There was no time to fix my disheveled hair or wipe the exhaustion from my face. I hailed a cab and went straight to JFK. A one-way ticket to Seattle, I told the agent. As the plane climbed above the clouds, a sense of peace finally settled over me. I ran. I had become a deserter in the war of love. 5 years can grind a man down, tempering him into someone more restrained, more composed, more numb. Then, a woman's dark, intense gaze met mine, and my brain short-circuited. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, wild drumbeat. The calm I had cultivated so carefully over the years vanished in an instant. It turns out a heart really can beat for only one person. Hey, man, you know her? My friend, Pike, tugged on my sleeve, his eyes following my stare across the coffee shop. Sierra's eyes were cold, her expression unreadable, but I could feel a low hum of anger coming off her in waves. What did she have to be angry about? I couldn't understand it. I turned back to Pike. Never seen her before. When I looked again, she was standing right in front of me. We need to talk. Her voice was as cool and sharp as a winter morning. She grabbed my arm, tried to pull me away. Pike moved to intervene, but a single look from me stopped him. We stood under a sycamore tree, facing each other. Sierra's voice was choked with emotion. How have you been all these years? Great, I answered evenly. I've missed you. My fingertips trembled. I licked my dry lips. Thanks for remembering me, I said, forcing a small laugh, but I held up my left hand, showing her the simple silver band on my ring finger. I'm getting married. The light went out of her eyes. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Finally, she managed to whisper, I wish you happiness. I gave a slight smile, my tone breezy. My fiancé is waiting for me, so I should get going. I turned to walk away. Her hand shot out, grabbing my arm. She pulled me back, hard, into a warm embrace. Her slender fingers tangled in my hair, and a pair of cool lips pressed against mine. I pushed her away. Don't do this, I said, my voice cold. Stop bothering me. She was engaged to Leo Perry. The news had reached me, even all the way out here on the West Coast. I'm sorry, she said, her voice laced with a bitter pain. I miss you so much. I think about you all the time. I sighed, a wave of weariness washing over me. You're engaged, Sierra. You have a responsibility to your relationship. Thinking about another man like this, you'll end up hurting everyone. Her eyes reddened. She wrapped her arms tightly around my waist. Look, I called off the engagement with Leo. We could be together again. Please. My whole body tensed. A voice inside me screamed, say yes, but reason won out over emotion. I'm sorry. I love my fiancé very much. And what about me? Her voice rose with desperation, her eyes locking onto mine. I stared down at the tips of my shoes, unsure what to say. Luke, I love you. I really, really love you. Let's try again. A single tear traced a path down her cheek. If you really love me, I said quietly, then you'll leave me alone and let me live my life. Please. The word was a shattered whisper, humbling her to the dust. Once, all I had wanted was for her to succeed. And she had. She stood at the very pinnacle of success, more brilliant than I could have ever imagined. I was proud of what she'd become. It proved my bet on her had been the right one, didn't it? I gently broke free from her grasp and turned away. The autumn leaves drifted down from the trees, painting a scene of deep, quiet sorrow. 5 years, and then another 5. A chance missed is a chance lost forever. My father died by suicide in prison 3 years ago. I knew then that there was no going back for me. And how could Sierra ever forget the horrific car crash that had killed her parents? Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. We were better off finding our own peace separately. That was the only perfect ending left for us.